What's happening, tennis fans? Nate and Scott here, and today we're talking about how to win those critical points. You see, the pros do something very different than most of us, and no, we're not talking about the Alcaraz drop shot or match point. No, don't do that. We're talking about something else entirely.
Yeah, this instruction is going to be great for you guys because you actually can instantly implement this and just be more consistent. When you look at the Pro Tour, we talk about Novak Djokovic, just being that guy that can go lockdown mode and just not make mistakes when it counts is all contingent on one thing.
Yeah, we're talking about net clearance. And not to be confused, we're not harping on depth. Depth is really important, and that's a big factor of it. But if you look at the Pro Tour, they're not always painting the baseline, right? We see on average most balls landing 3 to 4 feet behind the service line. But when it matters most, they are getting depth, but they're doing it with net clearance. We're going to show you some tricks on that later. But what I want you to do is summon your inner Djokovic, because that guy, when it matters most, he locks down and he doesn't miss because he's playing with good net clearance. So when we play critical points, talking about break points, match points, set points, whatever it may be, we all have one thing in common regardless of our skill level, and that's nerves. And when we get nervous, the tendency is to swing tight to the body, right? We try to control things more. The swing path gets tighter. And then we end up with this low net clearance, or even maybe even we're hitting to the net. Now, the problem with low net clearance is that you're asking your opponent to attack, right? You're giving them a big, juicy ball to where they are able to enforce their will. And that's the last thing that we want to be doing. But when we start aiming higher over the net, what's also really nice is it influences the swing path. We start playing with more space, and because we're swinging up, the arm stays away from the body as opposed to letting those pesky nerves allow the arm to get super tight. So this is critical, not just because of ball placement, it's also helping control those nerves. Up next, Scott's going to talk about why playing with height and depth is so important.
All right, guys, one of the most important parts about hitting the ball higher over the net is this is pretty much mandatory to hit deeper balls. And deep balls take time away from your opponent and they force them to make tough decisions. So understanding this and buying into the idea that just hitting the ball higher over the net, you're going to make less errors, but more importantly, it puts pressure on your opponent, pushes them off the baseline, and really forces them into a neutral at best situation. So once you've bought into the idea that this is what you want to be doing, thinking about how to do it is pretty critical. So what I want you to imagine is, as you're looking at the net when you're hitting ground strokes, just imagine a window that's about 4 to 6 feet above the net. And this may sound crazy, but with topspin and a racket head acceleration, 4 feet over the net is very, very plausible for your rally ball. We're not talking about moon balls. You can hit a very big, even somewhat flat ball like myself, 4 to 6 feet over the net consistently. So to practice this, guys, just grab a practice partner. If you don't have one, you can find them at PlayYourCourt, and jump out on the court and just really think about a visual of a target that you're trying to hit through. You can imagine a yellow line 4 feet above the net. You can imagine a window 4 feet above the net that you're trying to hit through. I've seen players actually get out there and put posts up and hang a rope that's taut, that's about 4 feet over the net. Just think about something. You need something in your head visually to be thinking about and practicing. And when you get out there, it's not about winning points. Even just through the middle of the court, practicing with a buddy, just really getting comfortable consistently hitting at this height, you're going to see your errors go away, and you're going to see when you jump into matches, your opponent's getting pushed off the baseline and having to make some tough decisions.
So the metric we want to focus on critical points is forced errors, not enforced errors, and definitely not winners. Like the idea it's match point and you're going to summon a winner, it's very, very difficult to do. Even the very best have a hard time doing it. But when you're playing with good net clearance, you're cutting down the margin for error, meaning you're going to make less unforced errors. Additionally, that height over the net is going to put the opponent in a position where they may press, right? And so if you push them deep, they may have to come up with a better ball in order not to hit short and to give you the open court. So they may go for more. And that's where you're kind of putting in a check mark in this forced error category, right? Like you're hitting a really difficult ball, taking away their time, and suddenly they're forced into an error. So growing up, I was taught with the 4x4 rule. We've talked about this in other videos. Scott talked about the 4 feet above the net, but the next piece is making sure, and when I say that, I mean at least 4 feet above the net, but also keeping 4 feet away from the baseline. When Novak goes lockdown mode, he's not painting lines. He's just playing with good depth, good pace, plenty of spin, staying away from the line, and just refuses to miss. I would actually advise doing this throughout your tennis game, right? It makes for one heck of a competitor to try to beat. But on the most critical points, this is absolutely the strategy one. And for everybody out there, those players that call Rafa a pusher, he is not. We're not talking about moonballing. We're still talking about hitting through your shot. As Scott mentioned, as long as you're hitting with some spin, you're swinging away from the body, the ball will come down. You just got to put it into practice. Remember, as long as you're practicing it, when you get into match play, it'll start becoming your own in no time.
All right, guys, so to close here, we just want you to commit to hitting the ball higher over the net. It's what the players at the highest level do when they need to go lockdown mode at the most crucial moments.
Yeah, and regardless of strategy or anything else, remember we talked about nerves. Like aiming higher over the net will actually help with the nervous swinging across the body, right? We want to make sure that we continue that in the bigger moments, fight the nerves, and put your opponent in a difficult position.
That's right, guys. Give this a try. Hopefully it works. Hopefully you're going lockdown mode like Joker. See you guys next time.